So, I want to talk a little bit about the power of story and how it is that we ourselves are always creating story. So, whatever we choose to create as a story for ourselves is ultimately what we embody and what we bring forward. And how this may show up in many people's lives is there can be this aspect of having a certain level of self-awareness to certain patterns or certain triggers that one may experience when certain emotions around discomfort or sadness or frustration or even anger may appear. And it can be easy to, once one has a level of self-awareness, to look at these particular areas or have these insights into, you know, I notice that whenever X, Y, and Z happens, I tend to contract or I tend to um, have this particular behavior. And there's beauty in the awareness piece of seeing that, but there's an even deeper level of power and beauty in being able to create a new story, a new, more serving, a more uplifting story that is in deeper harmony to not only the present moment, but where one desires to continue to create within their lives. So I'll use this as an example within myself. I developed this awareness um, in the past. I would say a couple years ago. This deep awareness around how abandonment, how the story that I was creating within my life around abandonment and how that showed up for me was powerful in the sense of being able to have an awareness of certain triggers or certain behaviors, which for myself was, you know, um, feeling this deep sense of fear around being alone. I created this story that the more authentic and the more I express myself and the more I stand in my truth, the more there is of an opportunity for me to end up alone and not necessarily have others who understand me. So even though I had this awareness that based off of certain experiences in my past that brought up the element of abandonment, you know, starting as early as um, when my parents separated, when I was 6 years old, my father going to war and spending time away. Um, a year before that, when I was 5, 6 years later, my father passing away when I was 12. Um, and there being this sense of awareness that it seems like people whom I care deeply about, at some point or another, they disappear. And what I mean by that is, I already mentioned the story or kind of the aspect around my pops. But my mother, rest in spirit, you know, she also transitioned over almost about 4 years ago. And when I was doing some work within myself and kind of going through these different channels and these different exercises around what are some of my own personal triggers, I was able to go back and see that, you know, there were certain best friends that I had, you know, that one shape or form the relationship may have ended due to moving or to distance or due to relocation. And I had created this theme throughout my life of being very resistant to developing relationships with others, almost like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because there was this fear of being hurt or fear of being abandoned. So I bring that up because, again, the awareness around that, it's beautiful, and it's powerful to know those triggers, to know how that may show up in terms of, am I contracting? Am I becoming nervous, or am I holding myself back from really communicating because maybe I'm concerned around how another person may feel, or how it may be perceived, how I may be perceived, and you know, just being able to be with that. Now, on the flip side, I also said, you know what? I haven't lost anything. I haven't lost my mother. I haven't lost my father. I haven't lost any of these friends or certain relationships in the past that may have abruptly ended, or that may have not had a certain level of closure when it came to certain friendships. And I recognize that, and this is one of my daily mantras each day: I am divine and whole at all times. So I'll repeat that. I am divine and whole at all times. And what that means for me is, it doesn't matter what I may feel. It doesn't matter what on the external may occur within my life. I am divine and whole at all times. So if there is a thought or something that comes up that creates the bodily experience of feeling abandoned, then I will naturally go to the higher thought of I am divine and whole at all times. And being able to tune into that higher thought while allowing the other thought to come up and to be experienced however it's going to be experienced in the moment, while being graceful, while being compassionate, while being gentle with myself, it creates this dynamic of being able to see not only the areas that one can contract in, and in my area, I'm speaking specifically on this emotion or this trigger around abandonment, but it also creates this dynamic of being able to mindfully take a step forward. And what I mean by that is, if we recognize and we're able to be in tune with our bodies, and on an emotional level, recognize the feelings and the sensations that are coming up in whatever moment it is that they're coming up, and we're able to trace that and to feel it. I feel this in my stomach, I feel this in my chest, I feel this in my shoulders, I feel it in my back. When we are that in tune and that aware of the emotions, and not trying to hide them or suppress them or pretend they don't exist, then what that does is it loosens the energy throughout the body, and it creates this dynamic where you are in power. You're the one who's in charge of your emotions. You still may feel them, and they still may exist, but instead of fighting them, instead of trying to go on a tug of war with them, instead of trying to, in a certain level, pretend like they don't exist, by being able to see them and being able to recognize them, being able to honor them, you could create this sense of grace and this sense of lightness within the body. And as that lightness continues to build, you can just continue to take another step forward. And the more that the pattern of continuing to take this step forward in the emotional experience of certain aspects around anxiety or nervousness or um, you know, sadness, anger, just all these emotions that we may recognize on an intellectual level they exist, but sometimes we can become so inundated or so busy focusing on judging ourselves around these natural feelings that may come up that we ultimately give more and more power to the emotion. And when we give more and more power to the emotion, what tends to happen is we tend to be in paralysis. We tend to be in action. So I filmed this and I just shared this from a place of what is one area within your life that on an emotional level that you may have an awareness of, this is a particular pattern that I have whenever X, Y, and Z occurs. Maybe I turn to social media. Maybe I turn to having, a couple drinks. Maybe I actually am tuning into porn. Maybe I notice I'm eating more sweets whenever I feel this certain way. And the key and the distinction is to still love yourself as you're feeling these emotions. I feel anger. I feel sadness. I feel alone. I feel whatever it is that you may feel, to still be able to love yourself through it. And as you love yourself through it and bring that mindful awareness to, again, the emotion and the experience of whatever is coming up through that emotion, then a decision is more consciously chosen to create a new action and a new physiological pattern that can continue to expand you and lead you forward on the path in which you know and are matching a desire of the heart to a vision that is far greater and far bigger than what some of these emotions will try or may attempt to pull one backwards. But really, it's yourself that is allowing the pulling if we're going backwards to occur. So I share that. I send it with love, with peace. You got this. You got this. You got this. You always have, you always will. Anything that disturbs our peace is a beautiful, beautiful gift for us to continue to open our hearts, to build even more nervous system strength throughout our whole entire bodies. And again, most importantly, mindfully take a step forward. Until next time, peace.